Part 1. Under the cloak of a restless night in the American heartland, a daring plot unfolded that would thrust the nation into a maelstrom of intrigue and moral conflict. In a bustling industrial town where the glow of street lamps barely pierced the pervasive gloom, whispers of betrayal wove through the alleys and boardrooms alike. At the center of this murky drama stood Jackson Reed, the fiercely determined leader of the environmental crusade known as Emerald Beacon. Renowned for his uncompromising stand against unchecked industrial expansion, Reed had long rallied communities to demand accountability from the factory magnates whose profit-driven ventures had left scars on the landscape. His relentless campaigns against environmental degradation had earned him both staunch allies and powerful enemies, the latter including a coalition of influential business owners whose sprawling enterprises were accused of poisoning the air and water with no regard for human lives or the land they trod. On that fateful evening, when an attempt was made on Reed's life, it wasn't merely an attack on one man, it was a challenge to an entire movement awakening to the environmental crises threatening the nation's soul. As the piercing crack of a bullet shattered the night's eerie silence, Reed's supporters were left in shock and suspicion reigned. Rumors quickly spread like wildfire. Some claimed that the conspirators lurked behind the imposing facades of abandoned warehouses, while others whispered that the masterminds operated from the safe confines of gilded high-rise offices. Even more startling was the revelation that, soon after the violent attempt, Reed's miraculous escape from a downtown hospital defied every expectation. Medical experts and investigators alike watched in disbelief as the wounded activist vanished from under heavy security, leaving behind more questions than answers. The incident, initially dismissed by some as a botched attempt at intimidation, was rapidly morphing into a tantalizing puzzle, a tapestry of treachery, corporate malfeasance, and a once unified citizenry now torn between hope and uncertainty. Amid shattered glass, flickering neon signs, and the relentless hum of city life, the stage was set for an investigation that would peel back layers of corruption and expose the hidden forces determined to silence a voice for justice. Who orchestrated such a cunning assault, and what dark alliances had fostered this deadly conspiracy? The truth, it seemed, was as elusive as the wind, and every whispered secret only deepened the mystery of that unforgettable, fateful night. Part 2. In the days following that electrifying evening, the investigation took on a life of its own, weaving together threads of industrial rivalry, political ambition, and a community desperate for justice. The once unshakable calm of Millerton, a town known more for its hard-working families than for political intrigue, was now cloaked in suspicion and intrigue. Detective Mason Carter, a seasoned but unyielding investigator known for his dogged pursuit of truth, was assigned to the perplexing case. Carter's eyes scanned every corner of the city, from the crumbling warehouses to the pristine, high-security offices of the industrial elite, as he pieced together a puzzle whose every fragment hinted at a conspiracy far more vast than a mere assassination attempt. The turning point came when experts examining the reclaimed office of Emerald Beacon uncovered a curious anomaly. A source of radioactive material was hidden among everyday items. Though its radiation levels were deemed insignificant at first glance, this clandestine discovery suggested a secret experiment or perhaps evidence of a covert operation aimed at discrediting environmental advocates. Every revelation, from clandestine phone calls recorded in the dead of night to hushed meetings in smoky back rooms, deepened the enigma surrounding Jackson Reed's escape from the hospital. As Carter methodically questioned factory owners turned reluctant informants, he noted a pattern, a silent alliance among high-profile industrialists who had everything to lose if Reed's voice continued to inspire dissent. In a twist that belied the simplicity of motive, it became evident that Reed's survival might have been orchestrated rather than accidental. Rumors began to circulate. Had Reed purposely eluded hospital confinement to unveil a deeper, systemic corruption tied to his adversaries? The detective's investigation revealed that behind every carefully constructed facade lay layers of compromising secrets. Families ruined by toxic spills, communities too fearful to speak out, and an undercurrent of greed that waited for the perfect moment to seize control. As Millerton's citizens gathered in hushed clusters, in diners and at local gather spots, every whispered conversation carried an implicit promise of retribution and renewal. The air was thick with anticipation, and even the hum of passing trains seemed to punctuate the suspense. Carter's quest for truth was relentless, driven by both duty and a personal connection to the struggles that Reed had so passionately championed. With each interview and every forensic finding, the detective edged closer to exposing a labyrinthine network of deceit and injustice. Yet just as the pieces of the puzzle began to fit, further anomalies emerged, leaving the investigation teetering on the brink of revelation while cloaked in uncertainty. What had truly driven powerful figures to conspire against a man who only sought to protect Mother Earth? And more curiously, why had Reed, battered yet unbroken, chosen the treacherous road of evasion rather than publicly confronting his adversaries? As echoing footsteps and furtive glances deepened the mystery, Detective Carter pressed on, aware that the next clue might unravel the entire scandal or plunge him deeper into a mire from which there might be no return. Part 3. As the investigation surged forward, the quiet hum of truth whispered beneath the city's cacophony, drawing Detective Mason Carter deeper into a labyrinth of shadows and secrets. Turning the tide of suspicion, Carter began to piece together subtle inconsistencies, a trail of coded messages etched on peeling walls in abandoned warehouses, hushed meetings inside forgotten garages, and a faint radioactive glow that seemed to mark each hidden cache of evidence. In the midst of this mystery, a prominent industrial figure named Simon Drake emerged as a figure of duplicity. Once publicly lauded for his philanthropic ventures and overt support for environmental progress, Drake now exuded a cold detachment that hinted at sinister motives hidden beneath his polished exterior. His once celebrated reputation crumbled under intense scrutiny, raising the chilling possibility that the attack on Jackson Reed, the courageous leader of the environmental movement known as Emerald Beacon, might have been a calculated maneuver orchestrated by a cabal of industrial titans determined to maintain their stranglehold on power at any cost. As whispers of Drake's involvement floated through the community, so too did the narrative of Reed's miraculous disappearance from a downtown hospital. Far from a random act, Reed's escape began to look like a deliberate gambit, a masterstroke engineered to both elude his pursuers and to serve as a final rallying cry for an embattled populace. While forensic experts confirmed that the hidden radioactive source in his office was negligible, barely enough to set off an alarm, it symbolized the dark undercurrents that so often accompany corporate corruption and the ruthless pursuit of profit. Each revelation added another layer to the intricate mosaic of betrayal. Factory owners linked to environmental devastation now face damning evidence of secret deals and compromised safety protocols, and long-standing alliances eroded beneath the weight of deceit. Carter, burdened by the relentless tide of evidence and the moral complexities of his investigation, found himself questioning every familiar face. In smoky back rooms and over cups of lukewarm coffee at late-night diners, those who once seemed staunch allies began to reveal uncomfortable truths, their loyalties too easily swayed by promises of profit and protective secrecy. As the detective navigated this moral quagmire, the lines between hero and villain blurred, each suspect revealing facets of ambition and desperation that painted a portrait of modern America. A land where every act of defiance against the status quo was either a beacon of hope or a harbinger of chaos. Now, as Carter's quest pressed on amidst public outcry and covert governmental maneuvers, the narrative crescendoed toward an unsettling climax. In the echo of every clandestine meeting and every furtive glance exchanged among powerful elites, a nagging question loomed large. Who truly pulled the strings in this elaborate theater of corruption and rebellion? Was Reed's disappearance an intentional sacrifice meant to expose a rot at the heart of industrial America, or a masterstroke designed for a grander, more mysterious plan yet to be revealed? And as communities across the nation held their breath, waiting for the next twist in this high-stakes game of power and deception, one thing became irrefutably clear. The quest for truth was far from over. In the dim corridors of influence, where every whisper promised both danger and a glimmer of redemption, the ultimate truth lay hidden, waiting to shatter or save an entire way of life. So, as you listen to this unfolding saga, ask yourself, in a world where the forces of greed and justice wage a relentless battle, can any of us ever be truly sure whom to trust?